You know what? I think girls and women should read more love stories and watch more girl movies. There, I said it. And no, I don't mean because every woman needs to sit around waiting on someone to fall in love with her. I actually mean the opposite, or almost the opposite. I think there's something valuable about consuming stories where women get to want things, where we're allowed to be soft, dramatic, romantic, delusional, complicated, desired, heartbroken, adventurous, whatever it may be. Because somewhere along the lines or somewhere along the way, we started acting like anything made primarily for women, especially anything involving romance, is automatically less intelligent than everything else out there. And I think we might have cheated ourselves out of some really good stories because of it. Because apparently a man can spend 2.5 hours blowing up an entire city trying to save one woman, and that's cinema. But let that woman spend 2 hours trying to figure out which man she loves. Here we go. Come on now. When I was growing up, I was an avid reader. Like, give me a book and leave me TF alone. I think some of that came from how I grew up. My mom worked hard providing for two girls, and my dad was often in the field and the military. And after a long day of work, sometimes my mom just wanted to go to her room by herself. So we'd go to, Blockbuster. She'd get her movies and she'd get something for us, which 9 times out of 10 probably had Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen somewhere on the cover. And I loved it. Movies, books, stories, they gave me somewhere to go. Especially because I spent a lot of my childhood on restriction, as I've talked about before. If you've been here long enough, you already know. And if you haven't, welcome. I'm Ty. On this channel, I basically give my millennial thoughts over gameplay, and somehow we always end up somewhere completely different from where I started because I can get sidetracked. But anyway, when I was under restriction, there was no, well, I'll just get on my phone. What phone? What phone? There was no scrolling TikTok for 6 hours. I couldn't go outside, couldn't get on the computer, couldn't do whatever I'd gotten myself restricted from doing that week. I had 4 walls in my imagination, so books became an escape for me. And one day I walked into a book fair at school and basically said, I need to find the biggest book in this motherfucker. Not because I heard it was good, not because somebody recommended it. I needed time to pass because I had a lot of it. And the biggest book I saw in that book fair was Twilight. And listen, I fell in love with that book. I think I was like in 7th or 8th grade. Few chapters in, gone. Bought the rest. Read all 4. And what makes that funny looking back is that I was also growing up during this era where liking certain things was treated like evidence against your intelligence, especially girl stuff. I mean, Twilight wasn't the only thing I was reading. I also read The It Girl and Gossip Girl before it was a TV show. But moving forward, rom-com, they would say boring. Musicals, corny as beep, right? Reality television, slop and garbage. Barbie, of course, that's for little girls, except for what, in 2020 with the breakout movie. Anywho, but somehow watching somebody get shot 47 times, survive an explosion, jump through windows and save America again and again, that's serious storytelling. Okay, I'm not judging because look at what's behind this video right now. It's freaking Palworld. I mean, we contain multitudes. That's kind of my whole point. Because the older I get, the more I wonder how much stuff did we genuinely dislike and how much stuff did we learn to dislike because of whom it was associated with. That's a completely different question, I remember being young and finding out there was a girl who liked Pokemon and Digimon and being genuinely confused. Like, you like Pokemon? Because in my little child brain, Pokemon belonged to boys. How ignorant is that? Fast forward to 2026 and I cannot get enough of Palworld, at which I'm sorry. You can explain the differences to me until your face turns blue, but I know Pokemon when I see Pokemon with guns. Instead of being a Pokemon trainer, I'm a freaking pal tamer. Okay. Whatever helps everybody sleep at night. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. At some point, somebody had taught little me, this belongs over here and that belongs over there. Boys like this, girls like that. And then somehow the things that girls liked became the things everybody was allowed to make fun of. High School Musical is another perfect example. I remember when that came out, girls were obsessed. Songs everywhere. I mean, all my friends in middle school were the people that, all of my friends knew the words to every song. And there was definitely this energy where boys weren't necessarily supposed to care about it in the same way. Now we're adults and look at something like Wicked, same thing. A massive female audience shows up emotionally invested in something, and inevitably somebody has to explain why it's overrated, annoying, unserious, or why they personally don't understand the hype, which I didn't see it. I mean, I saw the plays. I went to a performing arts school, and so I'm aware of it, but I didn't jump on the bandwagon. I'm not gonna lie. When the two modern Wicked movies came out with Ariana Grande, but maybe it wasn't made primarily to make you feel something or make me feel something, right? And that's okay too. Not everything has to be for everybody, but that doesn't make it worthless. And I think that's what I've grown to appreciate about girl movies. You know, when I say girl movie, I'm not saying only women can watch it. I'm talking about stories that let women's experiences, emotions, relationships, and perspectives occupy the center of the story instead of being some decorative piece, around someone else's adventure. And Twilight, I'm not gonna lie, where I was pretty obsessed with the love triangle. And I think people underestimate why women like them so much. Everybody reduces it to, she can't choose between two hot guys. Baby, sometimes that's not even the fun part. The fun part is what the choices represent. Safety versus danger. Something that is familiar versus something that's mysterious. Who you are versus who you could become. Comfort versus transformation. That's why Edward versus Jacob become bigger than which one is cuter. It became identity. It wasn't just, are you team Edward or team Jacob? Or if you were team vampire or team werewolf. More so about, are you cold and mysterious, warm and chaotic, going beyond the surface. And apparently the adolescent me said, why choose? Why do I need to choose? Because I'm not going to lie to you. Looking back at how invested I was in that love triangle, knowing what I know about myself now, maybe Bella wasn't the only one confused. Maybe I too wanted to be sandwiched between a vampire and a werewolf. Moving on. But Twilight is actually interesting to me for another reason. Because when I first read it, I didn't know I was participating in this gigantic cultural phenomenon. I was a black girl at a predominantly black school. I wasn't walking through the hallway seeing everyone around me carrying their own Twilight book. I found this book-ass book because I was bored. That's literally my origin story. Then later I realized, women everywhere are reading this and loving it. Mothers, daughters, grandmas, your neighbors. People were invested in the casting process. People were waiting in line to be the first to see the movies. People had their own extreme opinions and disappointments, or whatever you want to call it. And then the movie exploded, and suddenly the people who had never touched the book had the strongest opinions about how stupid Twilight is. And that also was very interesting. Not whether Twilight is objectively great literature. I'm not even having that argument. I'm not having that argument. It's the instinct to see a bunch of women passionately enjoying something and immediately position yourself above it. Because I think sometimes we're not criticizing the story, we're criticizing the people who love it, and those aren't the same thing. And I definitely don't think women are immune to this either, because I see women doing it to other women all the time, especially now. And this is where I think what we consume actually matters. Because if every relationship you're watching for entertainment is toxic, every conversation is somebody fighting, every woman is someone else's enemy, every relationship is cheating or revenge, humiliation, screaming, throwing drinks, proving who's tougher, at what point does entertainment start influencing what feels normal? I'm not saying you watch one Zeus show and wake up fighting people in a parking lot. Please. If that's you, go touch some grass. I'm saying repetition does something to you. Stories give us templates. That's why I think women, especially younger women, should still consume stories about tenderness, friendship, longing, romance. Women figuring themselves out. Women being loved without having to perform toughness every 5 seconds. Women having adventures. Women being ridiculous. Women getting their hearts broken and surviving it. Women choosing to be themselves. Women choosing somebody else. Even women making the wrong choice. Give me all of it. Because the answer to shallow representations of women isn't removing romance. It's giving women more kinds of stories. And that's probably why I've always been a sucker for a good love story. Not because I think romantic love is the greatest thing a woman can accomplish. Come on. Look at the name of this channel. The Greatest Love. Love has always meant more to me than that. There's love for your child, your family, your friends, God, yourself, your craft, your community, your future, and yes, there's something beautiful about romantic love too. I'm not going to pretend I don't like that just because somebody decided being cynical sounds smarter. I have an English degree. I can analyze symbolism and still want them to kiss. Both things can happen. Okay. Matter of fact, sometimes after analyzing symbolism for 4 years, please, just kiss already. I'm tired. And maybe that's another reason I've come back across this stuff as I've gotten older. Adulthood gives us enough seriousness. Bills are serious. Oh shit. Just realized I gotta pay something. It's already 10:11. Work is serious. Parenting is serious. Trying to build something is serious. The world is serious. Sometimes I don't need another story reminding me of how terrible everything is. Sometimes I want sparkly vampires. Sometimes I want a ridiculous love triangle. Sometimes I want a woman in a beautiful dress running through a field trying to figure out who she's in love with. Sometimes I want music. Sometimes I want teal, turquoise blue with a sprinkle of pink. Sometimes I want to be tomboy pretty. Sometimes I want a story where the biggest problem on earth is, does he like me back? Because for 2 hours, that's kind of peaceful. And I think men miss something when they automatically reject those stories too. Not because men need, to become more feminine. That's not what I'm saying at all. But one of the coolest things storytelling lets us do is temporarily live inside someone else's perspective, right? I will never know what it's like to be a man, but I've spent thousands of hours consuming stories written about men. War, fatherhood, brotherhood, masculinity, failure, heroism, and those stories have helped me understand experiences that aren't mine. So why wouldn't the reverse have value for us? That's literally one of the reasons art exists. You don't have to be the character to recognize something human inside them. And I think younger me would be benefited from understanding that sooner, because she thought she had to sort herself. Girly, not girly, boy stuff, girl stuff. I like what I like. Give me Call of Duty, GTA, Palworld, now. Twilight. Give me a romance novel. Give me some Mary Kate and Ashley nostalgia. You're invited. You're invited. You're invited. Okay. Those who know. Give me a movie where absolutely nothing explodes and the entire conflict could have been solved if 2 people had one honest or hot conversation. I don't care. I'm grown. I pay bills. You cannot bully me out of enjoying a love triangle anymore. And maybe that's really where I wanted this conversation to go. Don't let someone else's embarrassment decide what you're allowed to enjoy, especially women. Read the romance novel, watch the girl movie, watch the corny musicals, watch the reality show if that's what you like, but also branch out. Consume stories about women who don't look like you, as well as women who don't love like you, women who don't live like you, women from different generations, different cultures, different circumstances. Because the more perspectives you experience, the harder it becomes to believe your perspective is the only normal one. And I think that's one of the greatest things stories ever gave me. Because before I had the language for empathy, I had books. Before I could travel wherever I wanted, I had books. Before I could understand why somebody would make a decision completely different than mine, I had characters. And somewhere inside all those stories, I learned a little bit more about myself too. So yeah, maybe girls should read more love stories. Maybe maybe everybody should watch more girl movies. As I've said in the first 3 seconds of this video, everybody should watch more girl movies. Some of them are fucking good. And life is way too short to pretend you don't like something because somebody else might think it's corny. And if you've been sitting here this whole time listening to me defend sparkly vampires over Palworld gameplay, you definitely belong here. So just go ahead and subscribe. I love you, and I'd love to have you back with me. I appreciate you for being here. I'll sit with you in the next one. Peace.